My boyfriend texted, "Tonight, we need to have a serious talk." It sounded normal, but yesterday, my whole feed saw it, a public photo, cooking in another woman's kitchen. Who goes public like that, while still having a girlfriend? I froze, staring at the screen, my hands trembling. This wasn't gossip, not a paparazzi shot. He had posted it himself, grinning wide, looking every bit like a happy couple living together. I was 28, working in marketing in Boston, never imagining I would become the punchline like this. After all the years we'd been together, I had trusted that he would at least keep the bare minimum of respect. Yet with a single photo, every boundary shattered. I didn't know what was more chilling, that he disrespected my feelings so blatantly in front of everyone, or that she stood there, letting him play house in her kitchen. And now, after all that, he texted me as if nothing happened. So what exactly did he plan to say tonight? I had known Ethan for 2 years. In those 2 years, if anyone asked, I would smile and say I had found a decent man, thoughtful, steady. His family seemed to like me, too. Once, his mother even told me, "You're good for his career." Hearing that gave me reassurance. I thought I was on the right path, that one day we would build a home of our own. But everything began to crack from something that seemed small. One evening, Ethan came home, dropped his bag on the table, and casually said, "Oh, Maya texted me. She's in trouble with her roommate. The girl suddenly moved out, and now Maya can't afford the rent." I was about to ask if he wanted me to share a roommate ad online or reach out to friends. But before I could speak, he continued, as if presenting the most reasonable solution in the world, "I'll move in with Maya for a few weeks, help split the rent. Once she finds someone new, I'll come back." I looked up at him, thinking I misheard. "Ethan, you're joking. Right?" He frowned, shook his head. "No, I'm serious. She's stuck. What else can she do?" I was too stunned to react. "You think moving in with another woman while having a girlfriend is normal?" The look in his eyes made me shiver. There was no hint of guilt, only a strange pride, as if he expected me to feel grateful for his generosity. "Harlow, you're overreacting. This is friends helping each other," he said. "If you trust me, this shouldn't be an issue." I clenched my fists, trying to keep calm. "Ethan, this isn't about trust. It's about boundaries. Friends can help in many ways, find a new tenant, lend money short-term, even cover some costs. But you deciding to move in with her, no couple sees that as normal." He shrugged, a mocking edge in his tone. "You're always talking about boundaries. I think you're being selfish. Maya needs support, and all you care about is your own feelings." That word "selfish" cut straight into my chest. I had grown used to him twisting situations whenever we disagreed, but this time, the way he painted me as the villain hurt and enraged me. I asked directly, "Do you ever think about how I feel? That I'd have to watch my boyfriend move in with another woman and convince myself to trust you every night?" Ethan leaned back, arms crossed, looking at me like a teacher scolding a slow student. "The problem is you don't have enough trust. If you truly trusted me, it wouldn't matter where I was or who I was with." I jumped up, pacing the living room. Memories flooded back, all the times I had compromised, stepped back to keep the peace. And now, when I drew a simple line, I was branded selfish and insecure. "Ethan, stop twisting this. It's not about trust. It's about you not respecting me or this relationship when you make a decision you know will hurt me." He pressed his lips, then smirked. "You're trying to dictate what I do again. You want to forbid me from helping my friend. Don't you see how unreasonable you sound?" The way he framed it, every word I spoke became control or lack of trust. I realized this wasn't a normal argument anymore. It was a mind game where Ethan deliberately cast me as the antagonist. That whole night, we argued. I laid out every option: roommate apps, real estate services, even offering Maya a few $100s myself to tide her over. But Ethan dismissed it all, insisting, "The only effective way is for me to move in. Why does it have to be you? Why can't Maya find someone else, or take responsibility for her own life?" The more I thought about it, the more uneasy I felt. Maya wasn't helpless. She had a steady job, a degree, a wide circle of friends. Yet Ethan painted her as a helpless victim to justify his choice. "So, out of all the options, you chose the one that hurts me most. And you expect me to applaud you for it?" He stared back at me, his eyes so unfamiliar I shuddered. Maybe I had never truly known him. That Friday, Ethan said he'd go to Maya's to help her set up the empty room for a new tenant. He said he might be home late, and even though I felt uneasy, I decided not to argue further. I thought, let him act, and the truth will show itself. The next morning, as I woke up, my phone buzzed. A message popped up. A photo of Ethan lying in bed, a shirtless selfie, his face smug. The caption was short, but enough to make my blood boil. Trust is everything. I had expected a text saying, I'm sorry I'm late, I didn't mean to worry you. Instead, he deliberately sent me that picture, a punch straight to my trust and self-respect. I called immediately. He picked up so fast it felt like he had been waiting. Ethan, what are you doing? My voice shook with rage. He laughed, the sound light, as if nothing mattered. Harlow, I wanted to be transparent. You always say I should be honest, right? Now you see exactly where I am and what I'm doing. What could be clearer? Transparent? Sending your girlfriend a photo of yourself in another woman's bed and calling that transparency? Do you realize how insulting this is? I snapped. You're overreacting. If you trust me, this isn't a problem. I gripped the phone, feeling like I was talking to someone who thrived on twisting truth into lies. Ethan wasn't apologetic at all. He was enjoying my torment, as if this was all some test. I hung up, slammed the phone on the table. I told myself I needed space to breathe, to keep from exploding in my tiny apartment. But minutes later, Messenger lit up. The sender wasn't Ethan, but Maya. Her message was short: if you want to keep Ethan, grow up. Men can't stand weak, clingy girls. Don't make him choose, because the result will never be in your favor. I had never spoken to Maya before. She had no right to interfere in my relationship. Yet here she was, speaking like an insider. Even sitting on a throne, passing judgment. I typed out each word, Maya, who do you think you are? But then I erased it, didn't send. I knew that was exactly what they wanted, to see me angry, to see me lose control. I sat frozen, replaying every piece of the past weeks. Ethan told me Maya was stuck because her roommate moved out. Ethan insisted only he could help. And now, Maya was messaging me in the tone of a co-conspirator, as if they had plotted together to humiliate me. The phone buzzed again. This time, it was Ethan. His voice was light, like a passing breeze. I know Maya texted you. She cares. Don't be so harsh. I let out a dry laugh. Care? A woman messages her roommate's girlfriend, calls her weak, and that's care. Ethan, do you even hear yourself? He changed tone, flat and rehearsed like a memorized lesson. The problem isn't Maya. The problem is you. You're too sensitive. If you were more mature, none of this would have happened. That phrase, the problem is you, cut like a knife. He was bending reality, turning me into the villain in my own relationship. That night, I sat by the window, streetlights spilling through the glass. I thought back to when we first met, when Ethan took me to little restaurants, telling me about his career dreams, and I believed in that version of him. But now, everything had warped into a psychological game, where he and Maya joined forces to push me into a dark corner. Anger burned, pain lingered, but I knew if I stayed silent, they would think they had won. And in that moment, I decided I would not be the victim anymore. That evening, I arrived at the restaurant 15 minutes early. Golden light fell across the wooden table, the smell of roasted coffee mixed with a hint of wine. I tried to imagine what Ethan would say. For a second, I wanted to believe he would apologize, that his actions were a stupid impulse. Ethan walked in, moving casually as if nothing had happened. He pulled out a chair across from me, gave a faint smile, the same smile that once felt warm but now chilled me to the bone. Thank you for coming. I think we need a mature conversation. Ethan began, calm, like a professor about to lecture. I held his gaze without a word. I wanted to hear exactly how he planned to explain. He drew in a breath, then launched into a string of well-prepared lines. Harlow, every relationship needs trust and sacrifice. I feel your lack of trust. You act like I'm doing something terrible, when in reality, I'm helping an old friend through a hard time. If you handled this with more composure, you'd understand this is normal. Normal? You sleep over at her place, send your girlfriend a shirtless picture, and call that normal. Ethan raised his brows, his face calm to the point of arrogance. That was me being transparent. I didn't want to hide anything. You should feel secure that I'm willing to be open. I stared into his eyes, searching for remorse, but all I saw was smugness. So what did you call me here for today? Ethan placed his hands together on the table, leaned forward. To make it clear, I'm moving in with Maya. That's my decision. She needs me, and I can't turn my back on a friend because you're uncomfortable. My chest tightened, but I forced my voice steady. So no matter how I feel, you've already decided. Yes, this is what I have to do. If you truly love me, you'll understand. I tilted my head, speaking clearly, and what if I made the same choice? If a male friend of mine lost his place and I decided to move in with him for a few weeks, Ethan, would you accept that? He gave a sharp laugh, dripping with contempt. Harlow, that's a false comparison. Completely different. Different how? I didn't break eye contact. He waved a hand, his tone harsher. Because I trust you. I wouldn't feel threatened if you had male friends. But my situation is necessary. Maya has no one else. Ethan wasn't blind. He wasn't too kind or manipulated. He knew exactly what he was doing. The so-called helping a friend was a cover. What he wanted was control, the power to redefine right and wrong, to paint me as controlling and immature. I leaned back, exhaled slowly. Everything was clear as daylight. Ethan, what you really want is to control me. You want to force me into choosing between my self-respect and staying with you. He frowned, his voice hissing. You always turn everything into a problem. It's impossible to talk to you. Impossible, because you never actually want to listen. I left the restaurant that night with a different state of mind. No more explosive anger, no more desperate arguing to prove I was right. I understood that debating with Ethan only drained me. He didn't seek understanding. He wanted me trapped in his game. So I wouldn't react anymore. I would be silent. But not submissive, the kind of silence laced with sweetness and irony, the kind that would make him stumble. That night, Ethan texted, I bought an extra small suitcase. I'll start packing tomorrow. I looked at the message, lips curling. Before, I would have written a long reply, full of questions and accusations. But this time, I typed quickly, that's great. Don't forget to bring an extra toothbrush for Maya, so she won't think you're unprepared. Seconds later, my phone rang. Ethan's voice betrayed his unease. Harlow, what do you mean by that? I feigned surprise. Mean what? I'm supporting you. Roommates should have personal items, right? I pictured his face tightening, struggling to frame a response. He was used to me yelling, crying, or arguing. But this softness threw him off balance. Stop being sarcastic, he muttered, irritated. I smiled faintly, but kept my tone sweet. Who said I was being sarcastic? I genuinely wish you and Maya happiness. Ethan exhaled sharply, then scrambled to change the subject. I'm doing this for you, Harlow. To prove I have nothing to hide. I know, I replied softly, and I truly appreciate that transparency. Ethan wanted me to explode. He needed me angry to keep his narrative alive. Harlow controlling, Harlow immature. When I didn't follow the script, he lost his footing. The next day, I made sure to act unusually cheerful. Ethan sent a photo of packed cardboard boxes. I replied, wrap your shirts carefully. Maya will probably love seeing you tidy. He texted back a question mark. I added, I'm only encouraging you. Later, he sent a picture of his dismantled desk. I wrote, don't forget the desk lamp. Maya might need extra light when the two of you stay up late working. I could imagine his scowl reading those words. He wanted me to fight, and instead I doused him with calm mockery. That evening, when Ethan called, I answered in an unusually cheerful tone. You seem different. Why aren't you angry? Angry for what? You've already decided. All I can do is support you. Then he pressed. Are you really okay? Very okay. I even feel relieved. That answer rattled him further. I knew I had struck the nerve. Ethan thrived on controlling my emotions. Without that, he would have to face himself. In the days that followed, I stopped arguing, stopped trying to reason. I replied to every message with sweet, cutting support. I bet Maya cooks wonderfully. Don't forget to compliment her. And buy flowers for the living room. Every woman loves a man who pays attention to details. Ethan grew impatient. He called nonstop, his voice a mix of anger and worry. "What game are you playing, Harlow?" I answered gently, "No game at all. I'm simply learning to be mature, just like you and Maya advised." At that moment, I heard his breath hitch, as if he couldn't swallow his own words. If he saw everything as some elaborate game of control, then I would change the rules. The name Cole came to mind on a Tuesday morning. Cole had been a college classmate, now an architect in Boston. Back then, he liked me, but I turned him down because I had started dating Ethan. Still, we kept a distant friendship, occasionally sending each other birthday wishes on Facebook. I sent Cole a short message. "Do you have time for coffee? I need to talk." Not even 10 minutes later, Cole replied, "Sure. When do you want to meet?" We arranged to meet at a quiet cafe downtown. When I walked in, Cole was already seated near the window, light spilling across his face, looking as steady as ever. "Harlow." Cole stood, his warm smile familiar. "It's been ages." I felt a strange relief being with someone who didn't judge, didn't play mind games. "I need some fresh air. Ethan, he's turning everything into a nightmare." I gave him a quick rundown. Ethan moving into Maya's place, the shameless photos, the speeches about trust and maturity. When I mentioned Maya's mocking message, my voice caught. Cole tightened his grip on his coffee cup, his eyes darkening. "I can't believe this. What kind of man thinks that's normal?" I gave a bitter smile. "Ethan called me selfish for not supporting him." "No, Harlow. He's the selfish one. And he's a fool if he thinks you'd accept it." That simple statement felt like a lifeline. For the first time, I heard a voice affirming that I wasn't crazy, not immature. When we left, Cole suggested a selfie to mark our reunion. I agreed. In the photo, we smiled naturally, afternoon light streaming through the window behind us. I posted it straight to my Instagram story with the caption, "Feels good to be around someone who respects boundaries." 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed nonstop. Ethan called. I didn't answer. He called again. And again. I let it ring. Then the texts poured in. "Where are you? Who is that man? What are you trying to pull, Harlow?" I laughed. So many nights I had cried over his provocations, and now he was the one unraveling. Finally, I picked up. His voice seethed with rage. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I answered calmly, "Just having coffee. An old friend." I didn't hide anything. "You always said friendships with the opposite sex are fine, as long as it's transparent. Right?" I heard his teeth grinding. "You're retaliating." "No. I'm learning, like you said." Ethan inhaled sharply, trying to choke back fury. Then his voice dropped, each word clipped. "Harlow, don't push me." I looked out the cafe window at the busy street, feeling strangely at peace. "Test you. You set these terms. I'm only playing by your rules." I hung up before he could reply. All evening, my phone lit up with his messages. Sometimes pleading, "I want you to trust me." Sometimes blaming, "You're destroying this relationship." I read them but didn't reply. Instead, I texted Cole a thank you. "Talking with you today made me feel lighter." He replied almost instantly, "Anytime. You deserve respect." And then Ethan moved in with Maya on a rainy weekend in Boston. I looked at the messages he sent, photos of boxes and suitcases, his bland lines about how reasonable it all was, and I felt a chill. But I no longer let those images dictate my emotions. I knew, to wreck the script he had written, I needed a different path. And that path had Cole's name on it. Cole didn't pry. He simply showed up when I needed him. We wandered through the weekend farmer's market, past stalls of chrysanthemums, red apples, and jars of honey gleaming in the sun. I laughed as he handed me a bag of cherry tomatoes, saying, "Try these, they're sweet." My phone buzzed relentlessly. Ethan called, again and again. I ignored it. Texts piled in. "Who are you with? Harlow, answer me. You think this is right?" I set my phone face down on the wooden table, smiling at Cole. "You're right, these tomatoes are sweet." Cole smiled gently, eyes warm, asking nothing more. The next day, we went to an art exhibit. Abstract paintings lined the walls, soft lights tracing each stroke. Cole stood beside me, tilting his head slightly. "Do you see yourself in this painting? Half light, half dark, but together they form something powerful." I froze. I had intended for Cole's presence to be part of a counterplay against Ethan. But his words carried a sincerity I couldn't ignore. I snapped a photo, our hands holding the exhibit catalog, captioned simply, "Being with someone who sees your worth priceless." This time, Ethan's reaction was explosive. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. His texts read, "You're trying to provoke me. Harlow, don't act childish. Final warning, stop seeing that guy." I read, then smiled. I typed one. Reply, "You're with Maya. Remember?" Then I slipped my phone back into my bag, listening as Cole described his sketches for a new project. His voice was steady, unhurried, like our time together existed beyond any storm. But Ethan wasn't the only one unsettled. Maya began to show her irritation too. One evening, I stumbled across her story, a snapshot of her kitchen with the caption, "Some people can't handle when their boyfriends have female friends." Hilarious. I smirked. She was aiming it at me, flaunting the superiority she believed she had because Ethan was living with her. But to me, it only revealed Maya's own insecurity. I let the silence sit directly. Instead, I posted another photo, a coffee cup on the table, with Cole blurred in the background, bent over his sketches. Caption, "Some people don't need to tear others down to prove their worth." Within an hour, friends messaged me, "Harlow, you're going bold. Ethan must be losing it. Maya won't sit still either." I replied with a laughing emoji. That night, Ethan called, his voice almost a growl. "Why do you keep showing up with that guy?" I answered slowly, "Cole is an old friend. Didn't you say friendships with the opposite sex are fine if it's transparent? I'm being transparent with you. Don't twist my words against me. This isn't the same." "Why not?" I cut in, calm. "You moved in with another woman. I've only had coffee and gone to an exhibit with a male friend. If there's a difference, what is it?" I heard his breath quicken. "Harlow, I won't accept this." "You don't get to accept or not, Ethan," I said slowly. "You gave up that right the moment you moved in with Maya." I ended the call, leaving him to stew in the silence. In the days that followed, Cole and I kept meeting. We didn't always take photos, but each moment I shared was enough to show Ethan and Maya that I was no longer playing the role of the process, abandoned one in their story. And little by little, I realized, it wasn't Ethan's jealousy flaring. Maya was starting to feel her place slip too. One Thursday night, while I was scrolling through my phone before bed, a friend sent me a link. "Harlow, have you seen this? I think you need to." I tapped it. A newly created TikTok channel appeared, with a name that sounded like a joke, Roomy Vibes. And in every clip, I saw Ethan and Maya acting like some cute roommates. First clip, Ethan busy in the kitchen, Maya giggling as she filmed him flipping eggs in a pan. Caption, "When your roommate turns into a reluctant chef." Next clip, the two of them on the sofa, steaming mugs of coffee in front of them, Ethan saying something that made Maya burst into laughter. Caption, "Living with your bestie really is the best." Each image cut straight into my pride. Ethan had moved in with Maya openly, then turned it into a public show for the world to comment on, dropping hearts, calling them so cute, couple goals. My blood boiled. But instead of panicking, I calmly took screenshots, saving each clip. A thought flashed in my mind. Fine, Ethan. You like going public? Then let's go truly public. I opened the group chat with a few of Ethan's closest friends, the ones he always tried to impress as a model man. I sent every screenshot, with a short line. Maybe everyone should see a bit of Ethan's new life. I didn't stop there. I messaged his parents directly. His parents are very traditional and care a lot about family image, valuing family image and morals. I wrote, "Mr. and Mrs. I think you should know what Ethan is doing." 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Ethan's mother. Her voice trembled with anger. "Harlow, what is this? He's living like this." I answered gently, "I didn't want to make a scene, but since you're Ethan's mother, I thought you deserved to see." She held back heavy breaths. "He dares turn everything into a joke. Does he know how this ruins our family's honor?" Ethan had always been proud of his family, always boasting that he was his parents' pride. But now, that image crumbled. That night, Ethan texted me nonstop. First, "Why did you send that to my parents?" And finally, "You're destroying my life." I let the silence sit. I wanted him to sit alone, choking on the consequences of his own arrogance. The next morning, I got a call from one of Ethan's friends, a guy named Ryan. His tone was part angry, part mocking. "Harlow, he's lost all face. Last night the whole group watched the clips, nobody could believe it. How does Ethan plan to live when he's turned himself into a public clown?" I chuckled softly, maybe he thought he was playing the hero. Ryan scoffed. "Hero? All we saw was a fool." That afternoon, Ethan called. This time his voice wasn't furious, but shaken. "Harlow, you know what my parents think now. They're shocked. They said I've embarrassed the family." I answered quietly, "I only showed them the truth you tried to hide." "Ethan, you posted those clips, not me." He tried to steady himself. "You don't understand. They'll never see me the same again. You know I can't stand being looked down on." "Then maybe you should have thought of that before putting yourself in that position." On the other end, Ethan sighed heavily. I heard the strain in every breath. He had always been obsessed with being the successful, respectable son, and now his own parents were demanding, "What are you doing with your life? You've turned a joke into reality." I could picture him in Maya's apartment, phone buzzing with messages from parents and friends, his once confident face twisted in shame. To Ethan, losing face with me wasn't enough. But losing credibility with his family, that was the real blow. I chose the Italian restaurant on Charles Street, the place tied to so many memories with Ethan. He used to bring me there for birthdays, anniversaries. But recently, I'd learned he had taken Maya there, too, turning what once was ours into a stage for their cute roommate life. That's why I chose this very spot for my plan. Cole and I arrived early. The restaurant was warm as always, golden candlelight glowing on brick walls, the soft clink of silverware, murmurs of conversation, and the aroma of garlic and tomato sauce. I picked a table by the window, prominent enough to be noticed the moment anyone walked in. Cole looked sharp in a smoky gray shirt under a navy blazer. He pulled out my chair with a warm smile. "Are you sure this is what you want, Harlow?" I spoke calmly, clearly. "This isn't a game. This is how I show him I'm not the silent one anymore." We ordered wine. Cole spoke lightly, sharing stories from his architecture firm, making me laugh softly now and then. Everything between us felt natural, unforced. About half an hour later, the wooden door opened. I glanced up. Ethan walked in with Maya. She wore a tight red dress with matching lipstick, her arm hooked through his like a claim. Ethan wore the gray blazer I had once picked out for him. The moment his eyes met mine, his smile froze. I didn't look away. My gaze stayed steady on them, cold and confident. Maya leaned in, whispering low enough for only Ethan, but I read her lips. "What game is she playing?" Ethan gave a small nod, trying to keep his face neutral. But I noticed his grip tightening on Maya's arm, a reflex to hold steady. Right then, Cole took my hand. A firm, open gesture. I didn't pull away. Instead, I smiled at him, as if the world had shrunk to the two of us. Ethan faltered for a second, then pulled Maya deeper inside. His back stiff, each step heavy. In the wall's reflection, I caught him glancing back. His eyes were unsettled, as if he couldn't believe I sat there, glowing beside another man. Cole leaned closer, his deep voice pitched enough for Ethan to hear. "Your smile is beautiful, Harlow. I think tonight will be wonderful." I answered softly, "I think so too." Maya shifted uneasily. She looked back again, her stare sharp, probing. Maybe she realized what she once dismissed my silence had become a challenge. Through dinner, I didn't need many words. Just touches of my hand, my laughter at Cole's stories, my calm glance toward their table. Each small gesture made Ethan restless. He sat stiff, pretending to converse with Maya, but his shoulders never relaxed. Maya, though, kept sneaking looks. When Cole refilled my glass, she bit her lip. When I laughed, she frowned. I didn't need to win right there. It was my composure, my quiet confidence, that struck hardest. Ethan was used to me arguing, crying. Now I was unshaken before him. That loss of control was his undoing. When we stood to leave, I made sure to pass their table. Cole's hand held mine firmly. I gave a small smile, nodding politely. "Tonight's been wonderful. Enjoy your meal." Ethan opened his mouth, but the words caught in his throat. Maya turned away, her eyes flashing irritation. As Cole and I reached the cashier, I heard Ethan's voice behind me, urgent, Harlow, wait. We need to talk. I stopped. The whole restaurant turned, eyes curious. Ethan stepped closer, Maya trailing, her heels clicking against the wood. What are you doing? Trying to humiliate me in front of everyone? My voice carried clear, steady, for all to hear. You wanted to test me, Ethan. You've already lost. A few diners set down their forks, listening. Ethan froze, lips pressed tight. Maya stood behind him, her face rigid, eyes like knives. I stepped forward, calm even to myself. No one calls moving into another woman's home help. That's an excuse. A cheap excuse. Maya's mouth fell open, as if she wanted to object, but no words came out. I turned to her, my voice cold and clear. He isn't protecting you, he's using the situation to prop up his ego. The restaurant buzzed with murmurs. I caught the eyes of a few nearby diners, surprised at first, then pitying me, and finally looking at Ethan with contempt. Maya's face drained of color. She clutched Ethan's sleeve like she was searching for an anchor. Ethan shifted, trying to maintain his composure, but beads of sweat dotted his forehead. He lowered his voice, Harlow, don't make a scene here. We can talk privately. I shook my head, steady. You chose to make it public, Ethan. You filmed, you posted on TikTok, you turned your private life into cheap entertainment. So today the truth will be public too. Cole stood beside me, silent but unwavering. His grip on my hand was proof I wasn't alone. I turned to Maya again. You think you're special? You're a tool for him to prove he can do whatever he wants no matter who objects. Today it's me. Tomorrow, maybe someone else. Her eyes fluttered, the red lipstick on her lips paling fast. A diner nearby muttered loud enough, shameful. Ethan spun around, eyes blazing, this is private. No one else has any business here. I folded my arms, a cold smile crossing my lips. You're the one who made it public. You wanted an audience, didn't you? Now the audience has seen it all. Ethan's mask cracked in the very place that had once been his stage. Maya lowered her eyes, silent. After that night at the restaurant, things for Ethan spiraled faster than he expected. The TikTok clips I had sent to his family and friends spread beyond his circle. No one saw him as a model man anymore. Instead, he became a laughingstock. A week later, I overheard Ryan, Ethan's best friend, at a coffee shop with some former colleagues. He shot himself in the foot. Who moves in with a girl, flaunts it online, while still having a girlfriend? No one trusts him anymore. I didn't need to interfere. Rumors alone were enough to shatter the image Ethan had built. His family didn't stay quiet either. His mother called me, her voice trembling with disappointment. Harlow, I don't even know what to say. I thought you'd be the one to make Ethan grow up. But now, he's turned himself into a joke. His father hasn't even wanted to attend parish council meetings these past few days, too ashamed of the questions. I answered softly, I'm sorry for them. But this was Ethan's choice. Maya reacted differently. She began appearing less at his side. On her social media, their shared clips slowly disappeared, replaced with vague statuses. Sometimes you realize you were just a prop for someone else's ego. I wasn't surprised. Maya had thought she held the advantage, but now, with Ethan's reputation in ruins, she saw she had gained nothing but gossip. One afternoon, Ethan came to my door. He stood outside my apartment, stripped of his former confidence. His shirt wrinkled, eyes sunken, hair disheveled. He knocked, his voice hoarse, Harlow, please give me a few minutes. I opened the door but blocked the frame, not letting him in. What do you want? Ethan raised a hand, then dropped it, fumbling. I was wrong. Everything I did, I thought it made me look strong. But really, I lost everything that mattered. Friends gone, family disappointed. Even Maya, slipping away. I realized the only person who ever truly stood by me was you. Harlow. My eyes held no anger now, only weariness and cold clarity. Ethan, you think a few apologies will erase everything? He stepped forward half a pace, his voice desperate. One more chance. I'll cut Maya off, start over, prove I cut in, sharp and firm. You have no place in my life anymore. The words sliced through him. He froze, lips trembling, speechless. I went on. Everything you tried to prove only showed you're a coward, always needing someone else to parade your ego. I've had enough. His eyes reddened, his breath uneven. But this time, I didn't falter. I continued, my tone calm, oh by the way. I'm going to Italy. Ethan's brow furrowed, startled. Italy. With who? With Cole. The trip's been planned. A week in Tuscany. It hit him like a punch to the gut. He staggered back half a step, eyes wide. You're going with him? Yes. With someone who respects, who listens, who doesn't turn love into a test. In that instant, I saw Ethan break. His mouth opened, but the only word that came out was fractured. Harlow. I shook my head lightly. Goodbye, Ethan. Then I shut the door. The soft click of it closed like a heavy punctuation mark, sealing off the years I had wasted on him. Tuscany welcomed us with skies of deep blue and rolling hills stretching endlessly. I had never thought I would be in Italy at this point in life even weeks earlier. I couldn't imagine having the courage to let go of the burdens that bound me for 2 years. Yet here I was, in a small hotel room in Florence, standing on the balcony overlooking a city glowing gold at night. A glass of red Chianti shimmered in my hand, its scent drifting in the air. Beside me, Cole leaned against the railing, dark hair falling across his forehead, his eyes gentle yet warm. He turned, smiling. What are you thinking, Harlow? I sipped the wine, the tannins lingering on my tongue, then answered softly, I'm thinking, maybe I don't need to shout that I've won. Sometimes, living better is the clearest answer. Cole nodded slightly, his eyes agreeing without words. His hand covered mine, not possessive, but steady. I looked up at Florence's night sky. Music floated from the nearby Square Street musicians playing guitar, their voices carried by the breeze. Lights shimmered across red-tiled roofs of ancient houses. I remembered Boston nights, waiting anxiously for Ethan's texts. The distance between those worlds was only weeks, but it felt like a lifetime. You know, I said slowly to Cole, Ethan once told me love was a test of trust. But really, it was an excuse for control. Cole listened quietly. I went on, stronger. I used to think I had to prove, to argue, to defend my boundaries with words. But in the end, I realized the best way was to leave his board entirely. To write my own rules. Cole squeezed my hand, his voice deep and warm. You did it. And I believe from now on, you'll never have to play in anyone's game again. A night breeze swept by, carrying lavender from distant gardens. I closed my eyes, letting it run through my hair, my heart light as if I'd set down a lifelong weight. For a moment, Ethan's image flashed confused, panicked, begging. But it no longer hurt. It was proof I had escaped. I turned to Cole, peace shining in my eyes. I don't need to declare anything. I don't need to scream about revenge. Because this happiness right now is already the sharpest blow. Cole smiled, lifted his glass, and clinked it gently against mine. Then here's to new rules. The soft chime of glass blended with our quiet laughter. I gazed out. Florence unfolded like an oil painting, cobblestone streets winding, old rooftops glowing under the moon. In that moment, I understood the message of my journey. When someone tries to test your limits, never let them dictate the rules. Don't waste time arguing in their spiral. The only way to win is to step out of the game and write your own rules. I stood on that balcony in Florence, the night wind carrying away the last bitterness. I knew the peace I held now was the most powerful answer to anyone who had tried to make me their pawn. But what about you? If you were in my place with a partner publicly testing your boundaries, and a third person intruding, would you stay silent and endure, or step off their board and write your own rules? Everyone faces it differently, and I believe this story will spark thoughts for you. I'd love to hear your reflections after hearing my journey, and if you want to keep walking with me, exploring more stories of family, love, trust, and betrayal, stay tuned to the channel. Because every story here isn't a tale, but a mirror reflecting life, touching the heart, reminding us that living true to ourselves is always the bravest, most beautiful choice.